And if $500,000, $200,000 to $300,000. So when I do come, if that's the direction that you do choose to go in a workshop type thing, I'll come and talk about the costs of both types of operations, executive. One of the complaints in Montgomery is he doesn't have a deputy. So if you had a county executive, typically we have a deputy county executive in the absence or infirmity of a county executive. You have to. And then you have to have an acting county executive in case of some sort of emergency, which typically is a department head. You need clerical, administrative assistant, regardless of the form. And if you had an administrator, and if you had, you need an assistant there, it could add up with all the benefits and salary costs $200,000. But is the return on the investment worth it? Probably, but you have to budget for it, and you have to be aware of it. So I will come back out with those types of costs. I'll pull a couple of real examples, population-based sized. Maybe I'll look at Steuben County, who has a solid charter and a managerial form of government. I'll pull an administrator form of government, and I'll pull an executive form of government, and I'll just benchmark some of the costs of those operations for you.
So I have just two things. One, I just want to kind of clarify that if we were to just go ahead and say we want to do something, so we're going to do an administrator, without doing the retreat session, without doing the mission, the vision, and the core values, do you feel that would be an improved step to go on one path without doing that?
I can't say that.
I feel it would be. So
Yes. I know you do. And you can do that.
Question.
You can do that by local law.
Okay. So I do feel that it would be really important to not just jump into it without spending the time. So I would appeal to my colleagues that we do come together and have that day. Please keep that as a priority. And then my other thought is when I'm out and about and meeting people, I have a lot of people who are like, oh great, I'm glad to hear you're talking about the county governance and a manager. And then I have other people saying, oh Meg, we do not need another layer of government. So if you could just speak to that just a little bit.
These are the times we're living in right now. It's an anti-government climate, whether you're a town, village, even authorities of government. It's very anti-government. So I think if it ties to that's why I said a vision and a mission and core values, and you're sharing this with the community at large and the public as to why things are taking place to improve how you're spending their tax dollars. And I heard, the unfortunate issues of foreclosure. Why are we taxing in the first place? This position of being state mandated and needing to collect taxation from people's property and business property, educating the public of what we do and why. We have a publication that's called 101 Ways County Governments Serve the Public. I think you should take that document, put your logo on it, and have it reflective of how you serve your community. We did it for that exact purpose, that it shows the public what you're doing with their tax dollars, property, and the collection of sales, and the excellent presentation by, I think it was Cornell Local Road Program, of why you can't use local taxation for your own roads because you don't have any. And we're capped on our property tax, not that you want to raise it, but you're capped it at 2% for next year, 1.6% last year. And you don't want to keep raising property taxes, but it's a way to educate the public about why you're doing things and how bringing in a professional, and underscore that word professional, person to help manage the affairs of the county, and showing them that 80% of the counties across New York State use this type of a position, either elected or appointed, and that you're one of 7 that doesn't. I mean, even Schoharie moved in that direction. I didn't think they gave the budget authority, but I think recently they did give that to the administrator in Schoharie from the treasurer position. But yes, it has to be an educational component of it to the public as to why you're doing it, the rationale for it, having some public hearings, seeking feedback, be prepared to get yelled at about, oh, here we go again. People coming out saying they're creating more government. So knowing where you're going and the benefits of such a role and position, and I'll bring in a couple of real-life administrators for you to talk to and ask them questions, and some retired folks that can help ask questions. Like, I talked to one on the way out. I said, can you ever imagine, Steuben, your county operating without one? Absolutely not, Steve. Absolutely not. The legislators love the position, and it, again, frees them up. They're all busy people, as you all are, and they feel it works very efficiently.
I just had one other question. And when you come back, you can put this as a topic of to address, but maybe you can just speak very quickly. Our committee structure, we have 12 committees, and I may be missing some. I think I have them all, but 12, 14 representatives, 12 committees. I mean, what does that say to you? I mean, what do other counties have 12 committees?
I think that's high. I don't know, Carol, if you know from what we see come across.
They're not all standing committees, so.
They're not all standing committees, yeah.
Well, take strategic planning, performance review, and goal setting, and negotiations is negotiation standing.
Yeah, yeah.
So three, maybe
We have
3
about
of
8
them.
standing.
So,
Well, again, I think it's just a question of what do you want? And really, let's set a goal of what does this board want? And then go from there. What are the key results that we can achieve to reach that goal? And you refresh it every year. You meet again, what is our goal for this county? Our goal is to grow tourism 10% a year. Okay, what are our key results that we could do to achieve that goal? Department heads, the Board of Representatives, the community and the business sector, the residents themselves, people coming into here, the tourists, it's all wrapped around that goal. And I think that if we can establish those goals and get a system in place of setting those, and you're perhaps doing it already with some of your strategic planning, but and then figuring out, is our committee structure aligned with the goals of the Board of Representatives? What is the goal of the Board of Representatives? To effectively serve the people of Otsego County and to use their tax dollars prudently and in an efficient manner. Now, who could be against that? And then you align your committee structure towards that goal and mission. And the public see that, and they have to respect it. There are going to be angry people no matter what. People are hurting out there. People can't find a job. People are hurting, relying on public assistance. It's a changing economy constantly, and the skills that are needed, perhaps aren't there, or people don't want to work with the jobs that are available. They're overly qualified or underqualified for what's available. But I think that if you again, when I come in and talk to you with, I'll pull 10 counties with 10 sampling of their committee structures of their board, and we could look at that and see what is reflective of your needs, and then I'm only want to facilitate, because I don't want to bias how I feel. I want you to come to that fork in the road of what is the consensus of where we want to go. And amongst yourselves, you'll be fractured somewhat. But generally consensus. You are all here and elected and want to serve the people of Otsego County with their taxes prudently and efficiently. You all can agree on that. All of you can agree on that overarching goal and mission of why you bother to do this job that you're doing. It's a lot of volunteer work. Probably a hell of a lot more than you thought when you first thought about coming in.
I have a question back to something you said, when you talked to, I think you said when you talked to managers, they felt that they were advocating on behalf of the department heads. And the difference between a manager and an administrator, I think I understand you to say, was ability to hire and fire. So I was wondering, have you talked to department heads and seen how, if they feel differently about somebody that has the ability to hire and fire them, do they still feel they're on the same team, or administrators, have you noticed any difference? Because we went up to one county last year
Yeah.
where there was some issues.
I don't know if it's really something again, I'm coming across here, I keep getting in this box, put this box to answer, but I don't know if you need to have that right now, this position to have a manager hiring and firing. If you're gonna move in a step, I would think it would be more of an administrator type role where you delegate certain things to help, if that's the direction you want it to go in. And not a manager with hiring and firing. It might be too much too soon for a department, for that type of a move myself. I work with the department heads all the time with the administrators. You know, I never ask them that question, but when I come back with some of the cost issues that Michelle raised, I can ask them just innocently. I'll just call a couple.
Yeah,
To
just
public
being-
health, I'll just call a couple and say, what's it like? Because I, again, want to come to you unbiased with how I feel, just pulling various information and have some feedback from a highway superintendent, although they have a term, some of the department heads, what's it like? What's it like in that regard, so that we are able to have everything on the table, in a fair way. But yeah, you're right. The difference with a manager and an administrator is typically the hiring and firing authority, like Schenectady and Albany, those types. And Steuben is the department heads serve at the pleasure of. Now, some boards like that. Some boards don't want all this personnel problems. Remember, there's two sides of the issue.
They serve, they serve the pleasure of the administrator?
The manager.
Manager.
Yeah, but the board kind of likes it. Gets them out of that personnel stuff. They don't, it could, again, drag you down into operational issues. Well, hey, you gotta go talk to Mary. She's the county manager. She's vested with that power. Other boards don't, they want to retain that authority to hire and fire and personnel.
So as an uncharted county, with, if we were to go to a forum where somebody other than the board had the ability to hire or fire, are there steps that we need to take? Do we need to become chartered? Do we need to, because we are in effect delegating the power that is currently vested in the board?
I want to, when I come back, answer that question a little bit more. I want to research that, talk to Ellen a little bit about the legal procedures and steps to do that. You do have the power to delegate. You can't absolve, but you have that power to delegate. And whether that requires a referendum, I just want to make sure I give you the proper answer, because you are removing a power and duty which you presently have and vesting it with someone else. If that's what you choose to do. That may require a referendum. I think in that type of a charter may be necessary, which means a vote of a referendum to do that type of a measure. But an administrator, not so much. You would just need a local law, maybe even a resolution, but I would advise you a local law would be better. You get a public hearing on that.
Just for when you come back next time as well, other questions in my mind are, have you worked with any counties? Currently, we have the treasurer, in effect, the budget officer here by default. So by its nature then, it's a part-time job, a part-time responsibility. Do you work with any counties where they have assigned a part-time budget officer separate from an administrator and manager? where one's managing the budget and the numbers, and there's another person managing the personnel on the departments.
I need to research that question. It's a question coming up more and more right now. I don't know how many treasurers we have, but there is some discussion by the counties of they feel they need someone more day-to-day. Again, they can't set the qualifications of an elected treasurer. So anybody could run for that office. And they could be totally incompetent or overly competent and do a great job. I think Dan did a great job for the county all those years. Is he gone? He's gone, right? Yeah.
Our new treasurer is here.
Okay.
I got to work under Dan, so.
Okay, so he's got the skills that Dan had. But in some areas, they want to have more of a, like Lewis is going through this right now, where the board wants to have Commissioner of Finance. That's what they convert the position to, a Commissioner of Finance.
Because when as you sat through our public
Yes.
airing of grievances.
You bear the
this morning,
brunt of that.
And we have no control over the position as
Can we
it is.
blame Dan though?
If
That's not
a
fun.
duly elected official, other than the
Yeah.
board,
Yeah.
your DA, your sheriff, your county clerk, or the treasurer decides under their purview of responsibility to do something one way, we're taking the hit for it anyway, so I think a lot of counties are probably saying we might as well have that, whatever, under our control. And the final question I have is, when you come back, could you maybe share with us why Cortland switched back? What was the impetus for that, if you don't already know?
Personality issue with the manager, or there's a manager.
So they weren't able to just hire a new manager
Work
as
it
the
out.
city of Oneonta did a couple times?
I'll have to find out.
Okay, thanks.
They went through a real challenging time. I think the vast majority of the board turned over. And the new ones came in and wanted to run it a certain way, and then they left. So it left the county sort of, but I will reach out to Cortland and find out the history of that. So I want to thank you for having me here. I've taken enough of your agenda here, but it is a very important, thank you, Meg, for having me come out. It's a very important discussion for you and the future of where you want to go and need to go in the county. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We've had kind of a long first part of the session, so we'll take a quick break. Boards and standing committees, Public Works, Representative Holbrook.
Thank you, Chairman Bliss, and good morning, or good afternoon. Starting off with updates from Building Services. We had some work done at the county office building. The domestic hot water sewer system was in need of some repair, and we did get that repaired. And along with that, we will be working on in the 2019 budget with a potential upgrade to that system. We did some basic personnel changes and recommendations. One having to do with a retirement, and you'll see that in our resolution coming up today to replace that individual. Some other quick updates coming from Building Services. Let me pull it up here. Concerning the jail and the work moving forward there, the final drawings are now in hand, copies of which have also been sent to the sheriff for his perusal and any input coming back from him. We're entering the final steps just before it goes out to bid. The treasurer has secured funding to cover the project, and we're hoping to get that moving along here as quickly as possible. The tiny homes project kicked off yesterday. The site was marked off. We've got in touch with the Dig Safe New York. And a job site office trailer has been pulled and placed for service at the site. We have a John Deere tractor dozer that was delivered last night, and as we are speaking today, the stripping of the topsoil has started to commence. And then hopefully next Monday, weather permitting, we'll have an excavator on site, and we will start to work on the water, sewer, and electrical trenches for the tiny homes project. Also, Doug has been very helpful in the accumulating and acquiring of the surplus vehicles, county vehicles, and we've got them located behind the public safety building, and they're going to be ready for auction. We will be going out to Color City and having them come down and start the process of auctioning off our surplus surplus vehicles for that. And moving on to highway. First thing I'd like to do is I'd like to thank Sue and Amanda for their presentation, which was excellently done. It kind of gives us I think, a really good snapshot of where we are and potentially the work ahead of us to not only maintain, upgrade, but also fix our road system here in the county. I've got just some information on some county highway work that has been done. County Highway 48, there was some micro grinding and paver shim. Sioux Coat will be in the chip seal County Route 48 here in the next couple of weeks. The total project cost, according to Rich Brimmer, was just a little bit less than $600,000, about $69,000 per mile to do the work. County Highway 14, they did some shoulder backup and cold in place replacement there. County Highway 25A and 25 in the intersection, there were two large catch basins and cross culverts installed, and they still need to do one more along that. County Highway 39, we replaced a 60-foot culvert. At County Highway 34, we replaced a 24-foot culvert, so we're doing a lot of culvert work here ourselves. And we've completed the hauling and the compacting of the subgrade material for this Gilbertsville salt shed. And we hope to have the bid documents out later this month for the new shed project. Blacktop this season, we had to do approximately 1,000 tons less, and that basically has been because a ton of hot mix has gone up over $16 per ton since May. That really does have a huge impact on our ability to, when it comes to the resurfacing. Mowing, we're doing our second time around. I know that doesn't excite you guys, but it surely does me, because I'm not hearing any, believe it or not, any complaints as far as mowing goes. And they've really done a nice job, and I thank not only the Public Works Committee, but the board in general for allowing us to get those much needed tractors for the mowing that's been going on. We do have another County Highway 16 bridge and culvert replacement project that is moving forward, although slowly. And an update on County Highway 54 safety improvement projects this week will be going over, and that project is again moving forward to its conclusion. The intersection is at Route 205 and County Highway 11 in Hartwick. We are now going to be installing a new four-way stop sign. It's one of the high visibility stop signs, which I was really impressed to see the results with Peter Zawicki down there in the shop, the sign shop at County Highway. Also would be looking to, you'll see some resolutions 229, 230, and 231 that are going to be addressing a lot of personnel issues in highway. Mainly, we're looking at abolishing the road maintainers title and moving the MEO1s, MEO2s positions, allowing us, this is I consider it house cleaning, if you will. It allows us the ability to hopefully go out and get more people. We're going to be 7 spots down coming into this time of the year, which we call getting ready for snow and ice. We are getting below a level that I feel comfortable with as far as actually being able to put people in plow trucks this coming season. We are working, we are in competition with local municipalities, DOT, and if anybody has done anything with the CDL license, that in general, I mean, they are in high demand. Our road maintainer position coming in at, which is our entry level, we are currently at $13.72 an hour. As a former supervisor for the town of Maryland, we started our highway departments off at $16.40 an hour. So I had an individual in town that I was really hoping to be able to lure here to the county, and the math there just didn't make that possible. So by moving up and doing these house cleaning duties, we're actually going to be coming in with a starting salary of $15.93 an hour. Still below, I think, some of the other municipalities and some of the other challenges out there, but far better than where we are now. Hoping to be able to lure some prospective people to county highway. We have a fall safety day coming up that we're going to try to use as a opportunity for a career day or to get generate some interest for putting some folks into our plows. We attended, and I believe there were some other members here, we attended a meeting down at the local BOCES for the consolidation of the transportation facility. The first meeting actually went well. We are still determining the scope of the RFP that went to Andrew Trombley for the scope of the work that needs to be defined. But for a first meeting to kind of lay out what our plans were for the new transportation facility, I felt it went extremely well. Some good questions were asked, and most importantly, the question that was asked was, what is BOCES looking for? And they, I think, are going through that process right now. There is another scheduled meeting for that at BOCES, and that is scheduled for September 13th. And I don't have the time.
I have written down 1:30.
Thank you. 1:30 again for the time as far as that goes. We on the for the outsourcing of the parts for highway, I got an email from our purchasing agent just last night, and just give me 1 second here to pull that up to get an update on where we are. He informs me that he has been working with some Karen and some other for the tiny homes and for the trash, and those RFPs will be going out this week as well. And he did say that our parts RFP is moving forward, and his goal was to get that out and released by this Friday at the latest. That was approved at our last Public Works meeting to go out. We looked at it in content and thought that it met needs for county highway. I was kind of skipping out a little bit here from the PSLA side of things. There was a Homeland Security information that was given to Representative Frazier about a basic public information officer course. I'm actually going to attend it. It's no charge, and this is coming up for September 25th and 26th, and I'm simply going to gain some information, hopefully, about what ensues as public information officer. I did take a little bit of interest in that. Lastly, our Public Works meeting, our next one, will be Thursday, September 20th at 1 p.m. I will answer any and all questions that anyone might have. Thank you.
He's busy. Is that salt shed gonna be up and ready to get sand and salt in by winter or fall?
That is the goal. How's that for an answer?
Yes or no?
No, that is the goal. We probably actually would have a little bit better update at our next Public Works as to a timeline.
But the bid hasn't gone out yet.
The bid is not, that's correct. It's going out, according to Bill, it's going out this week.
But we're still using the old site.
That's correct.
That, information on the jail renovations, could you forward that to the committee members on PSLA, please?
Absolutely. Yep.
Anything else? You had the date, I think.
Yeah, I actually remembered to say it this time.
So I thought, okay, IGA, Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met on August 14th for our first meeting, 9 a.m. We had Jim Miles, Ken Meifert, and Sandra Harrington come from Destination Marketing. And since we did have some new members on IGA, they familiarized them with that tourism program, the tourism promotion agency for the county, and I felt it was a very educational and enlightening session. They discussed the funding stream for the destination marketing, which we do spend a significant chunk of our $1.9 million in occupancy tax on that, not the whole $1.9 million, but somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000. They also realize I Love New York revenue, and they have a very good relationship with I Love New York, as I previously mentioned in my last, I think I already feel like I said that already somewhere. But anyway, private partnerships, they also do provide them at several levels of membership between all-in, very expensive, and then seasonal. So they all, and also to note that this is Cooperstown is their website, and it is available for all destination types of campgrounds and B&Bs and hotels to be listed on that website. I had a campground in Hartwick that didn't know that they could be represented there. They can represent themselves in, I think it's a certain number of characters, or not as small as a tweet, but somewhere along those kinds of guidelines. And pictures, they can also be represented by picture on that website. So it is available as a resource for all types of hospitality businesses and at no charge. They don't charge you to be listed, only to be a partner, which of course gives you a better placement in the listing, but that's for the business to decide. The Board of Elections also appeared, and this is in your minutes, so maybe I'll only hit highlights, and if you have questions, you can ask. But short version, they're changing from deputies to, sorry, I'm getting it wrong, to deputy commissioners. but I can't remember what they currently
I think
have.
they were acting deputies.
They're clerks.
No, yeah, they're,
They're-
did they abolish
The
them?
language is, they're, but they're upgrading it to be deputy commissioners so that it will make for a better workflow when the commissioner is not available. We previewed budgets for weights and measures, also for planning and transportation. We also adopted the Otsego County Coordinated Transportation Plan as presented to us by Tammy Harris. And we did talk with Karen about adding a staff person to her department for the first time in her tenure as director. So that is also before us today as in one of our resolution, I think number 248. Is there. But mostly what I want to tell you is that we've heard a lot about energy today. We've heard that we need to address it, and I'm happy to say that taking steps towards doing just that. At 10 o'clock on Tuesday, September 11th, which is our next meeting beginning at 9 o'clock, we will have Irene Weiser from Tompkins County. She's a member of their Energy and Economic Development Task Force, where they put together a group of key stakeholders, just like what we propose to do here, and talk with them about energy. And it's a first step. It might be a baby step, but we are not ignoring the issue, and we're hopefully that will develop some good strategies and good work will ensue. We put enough people together who want the common good of the county. I'm sure we'll find a way forward on this issue. We also had, at our second meeting, we approved the sub-agreement between the county and SUNY Delhi with regards to the tiny homes project. So as Pete reported, tiny homes are underway, and that was our part of it. So just to repeat, our next date, Tuesday, September 11th at 9. Our next governance meeting is Thursday, September 27th at 9. So, and also thanks for listening to Steve Aquario and thinking about county governance. And you can come to that meeting and share your ideas at that time as well, too. The 27th at 9. And I'll entertain any questions as best I can.
Are we on the 11th, are we still going to have Jody present on the history of IDAs and the relationship?
Jody sent me an email, and I don't know, and I sent him back the alternate that if he wanted to do it on 27th, that would also be an
That's
option
actually
for him.
the board meeting date of the
Oh,
IDA.
so that's not really going to work out. So then I would have to say I hope so, but I will finalize that with him.
Okay. Well, is that worth kind of just mentioning to everybody that
Yes.
what Jody had offered to do and kind of some of that
Yes.
background and
Yeah,
everything?
and Jody had offered to give the IGA committee, and of course everyone is welcome to attend, and listen, a synopsis of industrial development agencies in general and the relationship that an IDA has with its county and what we're allowed to do with regards to their ideas and projects. And this was an area where the members of the committee didn't have a lot of knowledge, and Jody is going to present on, hopefully, that day on the 11th as well. We'll fit him in there too, and bring us up to speed on that relationship between, it's a very close relationship between IDA and county government. So if you want to find out more about it or ask Jody any specific questions, that hopefully will happen on the 11th. And if it's not going to, I'll email you and tell you when it will happen. Thanks, Amy.
Do you have
it be possible to have him present that to the entire board? Because I think it's something that we all.
Oh, maybe that might be the better way forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might work. Yeah, thanks Kathy. I think that I'll suggest that to him as an alternate strategy, yeah.
Any other questions? Kind of under your umbrella of IGA, Intergovernmental Shared Services Initiative. Just ask you all to remind your town supervisors and mayors in your district meeting tomorrow night.
Me
at
too,
Meadows.
2019.
Okay.
Okay.
7.
Seven. We need, the chief elected official of each municipality.
They
at
have to
that
have a
meeting.
quorum
They
in
have a
order to
quorum.
have a.
They cannot send a surrogate, it has to be the chief elected official. We either have to vote, we need a majority vote in order to pass, and there's a lot of towns and municipalities that are planning on participating, so
And that's the 6th at 7 p.m.?
tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. at the Meadows, in the training room.
Yes.
So they come in around the back, they don't go to the front door.
Will there be signs up there for them? If they come to the front door and pull
Yeah,
it,
there
they
should
won't
be.
know to walk around to the side.
Yeah, we had good attendance last time, so.
We put signs up last time to instruct everybody there.
Okay, thanks. Human Services, Representative Goodman.
Mr. Chair, we met two times this week. Once last week, March 27th, there was a personnel issue in terms of a vacancy that had come up, and instead of waiting a few weeks to start filling it, we were able to get those approvals, and you see that today. Also talking about resolution with Kids Oneida to provide 3 caseworkers to deal with our turnover problem, and basically contracting out any layoffs of any kind, because we will still be behind in terms of full staffing. So that was last week, and if my computer and the email were faster, we also met on August 7th, and spent most of that time going over the budget. As you know, the budget is about 25% of the county budget, very large, very complex. We spent a lot of time going over the preliminary budget as a whole for the department. And of course, the budget tool wasn't closed at that point, and this coming month we'll be looking at a more up-to-date view of it. No real surprises. A couple additions. I've spoken a number of times about raise the age, and that's coming right down on us. October 1st, age of responsibility will be raised to 17. Again, we have been promised to be fully funded for the costs for that. But one of the problems there is that it's hard to estimate the costs of that. So that's an ongoing issue. We've been working on it for, I guess, a year and a half now. Because I remember when we first heard about it, we realized we had a year and a half to get ready for it, and here it is. The other thing is fingerprinting. A new rule says if any staff member who has any contact whatsoever with any IRS records, which happens sometimes when you're going through the records of claimants, they have to be fingerprinted, and that's going to cost us $99 per person, per staff member to be fingerprinted. And as of right now, the state hasn't said, oh yeah, we'll pay for that. So that will be an added burden on us, along with all the rest of them. More vacancies, again, still working on the tiny homes. We've heard a lot of the pieces are coming together. Rather, we discussed the news. I think maybe at that point, I'm not sure whether it was confirmed, that there's a trailer park on Route 28 just outside of Cooperstown. It's been sold, and that perhaps the residents will be evicted. I'm not sure where that stands right now. I don't know if it makes it into one of your towns. I'm not sure whether you've got the update on that, but we're always concerned when suddenly a large, relatively large number of people become homeless.
Have you heard anything about that?
I did, it was in the town of Hartwick, and they did serve the evictions in an improper way, but then they redid it in a proper way, and the stress was instantly reduced. In terms of the dates, it was a little bit off. But at the last meeting in Hartwick, at the planning board, they had come with concerns, and there was no one raising any concerns at last night's meeting. So I feel that whatever they did, it's been resolved for the most part.
So there's no sense that there's going to be a bunch of people out on the street?
No. Originally, I did take several phone calls, at least 2, and had people come to the planning board with the same similar concern. But I feel that they have more time now, so I don't think that it's as much of a stress.
All right, the next meeting will be September 17th, 9:30 a.m. for conference room. Questions?
Hearing none, Health and Ed, Representative Scanlon.
Mr. Chair, we met on August 13th. Terry Knapp in the coroner's office met with us first. There are ongoing changes, turnover in that area. We're now down to having 2 of our 4 coroner's positions filled and 2 unfilled. And the time has passed for the filing of independent petitions, so there's nobody running for the unfilled position. Terry seems pretty confident that things will be okay for now. He's been handling the vast majority of the calls anyway. But he's been very diligent about coming to meetings every month, and I think he'll keep us well appraised if any issues come up, having just 2 coroners. But I think in the long run, it is something that we'll need to look at. The unfilled positions will come up for election again, presumably, if they're not eliminated. We need to figure out if these are positions that we're having trouble filling, and if some other plan of action needs to be adopted. Folks, have anything else to add on that?
Yeah, I do, actually. I meant to send you guys an email about this. I did talk to, when Michael and Lori from the Board of Elections came to IGA, I asked them a little bit about the coroners, and they said, since the second resignation came after the independent petitions closed, or whatever that, I think it was after that.
Go from there.
What's the gap right now? 10, 11, 12?
No, under that. No, I
It was
think I
about
said
10.
10, I think is what it was, yeah.
But it didn't have some stuff in it, or it had everything?
It didn't have some things. So it's gonna be a little bit more, but then there were other things that the credits were not all in either, so there's still more to go. Yeah,
Everything
so-
we have today.
To date,
And
yeah.
of course, as you approve resolutions today, that will make changes. Things that are approved now that will affect next year's budget.
Right.
Along those lines, Alan is trying to meet with every department head to go through their budget and see areas where they may be able to
Trim
make
things back.
trim, and I've sat in on some of those meetings, and so far the department has been pretty cooperative. So there's been substantial
You know.
progress made already.
Can only get better.
But still,
Yes.
any other questions? Technology strategic planning, Representative Marietta.
Yeah, just very quickly, I think the best way to kind of summarize our progress is these 3 documents that everyone has copies of. as we talked about before, strategic planning is working off of our Otsego County Strategic Prioritization Plan, which, for everyone who's looked at it, it's very broad. It is missing some of the more detailed information, and honestly, it's a little dated. So there's priorities in there that obviously are not going to be reflected that our departments are, the county and departments are working on. So we're going through this process of strategic planning, meeting with department heads and the committee chair, and kind of capturing those priorities, and then putting them into this draft framework, and then going to a follow-up meeting with the committee and as a whole with the department heads in that committee meeting, and revising and updating and reflecting their input and conversation. So the one that is completed, and I say that in quotes because really these are work plans and they're meant to be flexible and living, breathing documents. But at this point in time, the one where we've completed that process is Public Works. And so Pete and that committee now has a Word document that they would utilize as their committee work plan, and ideally, we would be updating these hopefully on an annual basis. And as I've talked with amongst our committee, and also with some input from the department heads, we overall we see these committee work plans kind of being added to the strategic plan kind of as appendices. So this is a whole package put together, and I think not to try to sell you on the idea of this work plan, but for us it's pretty helpful, especially for new board members coming on or committee changes. It really gives us a base to work from, and I think it's also helps the department heads and the representatives get on the same page. So we're in process with two other committees right now, SWEC, which we met with Keith and Karen, and a draft work plan has been created, and now that would go to the SWEC meeting on the 13th. And I hope to attend that meeting and capture the feedback and revisions from the committee, and just like we did with Public Works. Human Services, a little more legwork needs to go into that. Eve's working on this draft plan, so just so everybody knows, we didn't quite have that same meeting because Eve was on vacation, and Gary, it didn't make sense to have Gary attend, when we really need Eve to give us that input. So what is in front of you right now is just a draft with some initial feedback from Eve. She's working on really updating and plugging it in, making it. She and I met this morning and talked about some of the changes and some of the things she's going to work on, and that would go to Human Services on the 17th for review and updating. And then strategic planning talked about actually going back to Karen with IGA as our next committee, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Meg, but we were hoping to possibly, and Veterans Affairs Department, to try to do that on October 1st at 9 o'clock. So it depending on availability, we would reschedule if needed. But that's where we're at. Our goal, obviously, for strategic planning is going and doing this for every single committee, and making sure that we have these work plans.
Thanks. Gary?
I love the fact that we're doing this. This has been like on my mind since the moment I got here. And I think given what Steve Aquera told us this morning, he outlined a day that we might, a suggestion for a day that we might spend, the morning being us chatting with him about some details and directions that we go, in the afternoon talking about visions and missions and shared values. And if we have major committees that have completed what you're doing, we're miles ahead. We can save so much time because there we have the right black and white. This is what we've already worked on. We've already done this work to a great extent, and now we can move forward with it instead of starting from zero, which is so hard. So, That's the real significance of what Steve suggested.
I agree. Thank you. Anybody else? That's it. Then I update on policy. And
Good. I'm glad to hear there are committees, but it's really, the one thing I have to do is send a list to Carol and see if she can point me at the actual individuals who might be responsible for those pieces, and I'll do that.
Anybody else have anything to report on any outside committees or boards that they may serve on?
I'm forwarding to everybody the Otsego Now committee reports, board meeting minutes. And as you all know, I mean, Joey is open to any of you contacting him anytime. Obviously, we're needing to work through some of these ongoing discussions about the CFA applications, especially related to the decompression station. That's a work in progress, but I think if you have feedback and input, as I already mentioned, September 27th is the next board meeting for the IDA typically at 8 a.m. And I think the other key factor here, I think, as we already discussed, it would be great to have him come and present to the full board in October, if that's possible, and talk about the history of the IDA and the value of the IDA as a mechanism, especially, Jody can even talk about this recent bonding issue or proposal from Bassett, which is a really big deal, and kind of the mechanism by which the IDA gets its funding, but also the value of the IDA to the local business community, including the nonprofit sector.
Yeah, I met with Jody last week about that for a while, and also met with Dr. Streck, so we talked about it briefly then, and that Bassett is changing financial institution needs to rebond. I think they have two $49 million debts and new debt of $5 million, they open to finance through CCA. And that will ultimately come to this board if it does happen.
On a related note, I didn't vote the land bank is doing fine, and we've actually gotten the property officially over to the land bank when 20 Lake Street is no longer ours. And we've been working out some of the details on how to expedite the process of getting properties into the land bank, and Alan Ruffles and Tolga Morowski from the land bank have had a couple of very good meetings, so I feel like we're making progress in that area, and so do both of those parties. But on a separate note, and I just wanted to share this with the board if I could, I went to a meeting and it was in Oneonta, as Jody had invited us to come down and listen to Tim Johnson give a talk about the progress of the Otsego Electric build-out on broadband. And I just wanted to share some very encouraging news that I heard at that meeting, that they plan, it's a very ambitious project, to do 800 miles in a loop around the county, which would be accessible from both sides, so if one side goes down, they could just shoot it around the other way. The priority is to reach people who are not going to be served by the current bigger players in the picture. So following the lines that have been set up when the rural electrification was put in the 40s to meet the need of, unserved people for electricity, now they're following that same strategy for unmet service for people without broadband. And also to point out that it's a super high fast amount of data that's going to be able to go over this network, and also it's going to be transmitted to the homes at a super fast pace. So it's not like you're going to just slow it down when it goes on the build out. It's going to stay high speed, and just from an economic development point, this would allow someone to work from home who might not be able to do so right now. It's a multi-year process, of course, but the beginnings are starting, and it does promise to be something that's really good for the county. And also I'm not too technical, but with the high-speed broadband, it also invites the development of cell towers. So he felt that with this network in place, you would have cell phone companies wanting to come in and put in more cell towers. So that would increase that side of things for people as well. So just on overall, I felt it was a really encouraging meeting, and I hope that they can continue to be funded through the next phase of that build-out.
Yeah, correct me if anybody, if I'm wrong, if you know that I'm wrong, but, because I'm not 100% clear on this. But a few years ago, when the state released lots and lots of broadband money to do exactly this kind of build-out on a local level all through the state, they exempted the areas that were served by Time Warner and Charter Communications because they were in the midst of a merger. And they said, as a condition for your merger, you folks need to be doing this with the state money. And most of Otsego County at that point was in that exempted section. I've just heard recently that, and the merged company was Spectrum. And I've just heard recently that there is some sort of consequences, and I can't remember what they were, that the state is now laying on Spectrum because they didn't do a thing, as we might have expected. And so there's more to come there, but there will, the no action, which we have seen since the beginning of this process, may change in some way. We may have a way to affect that, but I don't know. Just laying that out there.
The only thing I can add to that is what the state did was they revoked Spectrum's right to merge.
Ongoing commitment to reduce property taxes and modernize local government services by fostering new shared services and enhancing the existing collaborations already in place. Otsego County has identified projects that will save taxpayers money through shared, coordinated, and efficient services between the county and local governments. 6 projects that will be implemented for the 2018 plan will be Otsego County Highway Asset Management Program, Municipal Accounting Software Distribution, County Municipal Email Share, Public Safety Records Management Software, Shared Public Works Equipment Agreement, and Otsego County Stream Management Program. Plans that demonstrate actual savings in taxpayer dollars may be eligible for a one-time reimbursement match on the savings amount. All parties and interests and citizens will be heard by the Otsego County Board of Representatives at the public hearing. The location of public hearing is accessible to persons with mobility impairment. Dated August 16, 2018, Carol D. McGovern, Clerk of the Board of Representatives, Otsego County, New York.
Anyone wishing to comment on the shared services plan?
You know, I'd like to comment in that, isn't this supposed to be like published in the newspaper before it's just read here right now? Or am I inaccurate in this?
The public hearing notice was.
This is the public hearing notice right now, so if you weren't, it's been published in the paper. Okay, that's my question. I would like to see how much we've already saved in shared services, if that could be documented somehow. Because it's my understanding we're already in this. So if that's a possibility, I think that would be a good report for, a committee to come up with for the public. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to comment? Hearing none, I'll close the hearing. And just as a response, the hearing closed, this is the 2019 plan, so this is for things that will be happening next year, we're not currently in this one.
I appreciate your response, Chairperson.
because of the hurricane, so he's up in Florida.
We have skipped a week.
This is here, that's all.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah, so just scan all.
Your stamps not coming.
Mary, I just, no, I don't know what's scan. Mary, I just see
James Floyd, I understand James Floyd.
I think that's the only one. Yeah, that's the
He's here. Oh, he's here. He's not very good. I don't know.
I can relate, yes, I can relate like that perfectly.
This was almost in
Yeah, right. You're second on the list. Yeah, I'm on the end.
Oh, no, it's me.
Oh, you're second on the list? Do you know if he's coming? No, you're third on the list. And then you're fourth. I think I'm last. But anyway.
There's three of them.
Oh, there's three. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait.
Nope, there's three. There's three different ones.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just, okay. Okay, sorry, thank you. That makes more sense, okay.
Oh, really?
We always notice it rather than budget.
Good.
I appreciate that. It's 2 4.5 hour interviews, that's like 2 days in a row, so it's
Just through the ringer, you know?
yeah, I went to college. Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you.
So that's totally.
I'll be sure to let you know. I'll stop by the office.
Know who other individuals.
Yeah, it's really fun, because all those committee meetings are open, but the only people who are organized are
Not up for us.
No, you do not have to take an action. There's a law now that says you must grab a record. So our minutes are much more extensive than required. For now. Come in and they say this, and the presentation, blah, blah, blah. All you really would have to have is six board members voted, committee members voted in favor of spending X dollars on one thing. That's really all. And you don't necessarily, secretary, someone's out of the board. Okay, but if you want to have a workshop, then just make sure Carol is okay? Anything else?
You had everybody sweating, except me, because I'm on the end of the list. We figured we would have heard from you. And hello, nice to see you.
To order. Roll call members.
Frazier?
Here.
Marvel? Here. Clark? Here. Stammel?
Here.
Kennedy? Here. Overactor?
Here.
Bliss?
Here.
Marietta?
Here.
McCarty?
Here.
Wilbur? Kotnick?
Here.
Martini? Here. Lappin?
Here.
Shannon?
Here.
If you're able, please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Privilege of the floor. Anyone wishing to speak?
I'm sorry, did you call the chairperson before?
Yes.
Okay, Dr. O'Donnell was.
Hello, I'm Dr. Catherine O'Donnell. Do I stand here or?
The podium.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Catherine O'Donnell, Professor Emerita from Hartwick College. I'm a town of Oneonta resident. And I would like to address the recent Otsego Now proposal for a fracked gas plant in the town of Oneonta, where I live. And I have submitted an editorial to the Oneonta Star. I hope that they will publish it this week. I have copies for the court. In the editorial, I referred to my experience on the town planning board. So I did serve on the town planning committee for the entire duration of the term. And in 2014, we adopted a comprehensive plan for the town of Oneonta. And in that plan, for that plan, we hired Zogby Associates to do a survey of town residents to really monitor and register our constituents' views on a number of issues, including the issue of frack gas. At the time, this was a big issue in our town, in our state, and so on. So the issue of frack gas actually was one of the principal factors leading to the revision of the town plan. The results from that survey were revealing and convincing. 67% of residents did not support hydraulic fracturing. 72% supported solar energy, 70% commercial wind energy development, 53% supported commercial biofuel energy development. And the plan underscored the community's sentiment, and I quote here, "Town residents want to ensure a balance between economic development and environmental protection." Specifically, the comprehensive plan makes very plain the constituents, the residents' view about what we envisioned for our town. And I quote, "To protect the high quality of life we enjoy and our beautiful natural surroundings, measures should be taken to ensure compatibility with the environment before development occurs. To protect our water resources and environment, the Comprehensive Planning Committee urges the town to reinforce the state's DEC laws and municipal regulations regarding safeguards for local water. Grant applications should concentrate on growing existing businesses, encouraging new types of industry and manufacturing, keeping in mind that residents, quote, want to protect their quality of life. And finally, that the town protect the citizens and the environment against potential threats associated with toxic wastes and byproducts from gas drilling, such as wastewater storage, transport, treatment, that is sewage, and utilization in agricultural contexts and on local roads." The document also refers to the fact that our town code is stronger than the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and in that it prohibits polluting actions, including but not limited to any use which may be noxious or offensive by reason of the emission of odor, fumes, smoke, dust, gas, vibration, or noise. Given these very explicit statements about protecting the quality of life in the town of Oneonta and its environment, and the type of economic development that the citizens had in mind and that we wanted to happen, the proposal for a frack gas plant in the town of Oneonta is highly anomalous. And I would say it violates not only the will of the community, but our town code. So I would urge Mr. Zagrebski, the CEO of Otsego now, to read our comprehensive plan and to follow the recommendations that were developed there to ensure what the plan referred to as the constituents' desire to live in a quiet, peaceful, environmentally sound community. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nicole Dillingham. I live in the Springfield Center. I also happen to be board president of Otsego 2000, located here in Cooperstown. I have been before you many times talking about fracking, but I didn't think I would still have to be doing it almost 4 years after the fracking ban was announced by our state government. But the recent proposal submitted by the IDA, in fact, intends to renew the entire debate about fracking in our community. As Dr. O'Donnell has pointed out, it violates many of our town laws, our village laws, and our comprehensive plans. Many of you sitting in this room were involved in passage of some of the bans and town laws and comprehensive plans of which we speak today. And so this is a very serious development. And I'm talking to you because the IDA is, in fact, under your jurisdiction. The chair of this county legislature, Mr. Bliss, appoints all of the board of directors of the IDA. And I will submit that the grant application prepared by the executive director of the IDA, Mr. Jody Zakarevsky, is entirely flawed, and I don't think I would be going too far to say that it is incompetent and it should be withdrawn. Now, I don't use those words lightly, but let me just point out a couple of the highlights. First of all, it's very significant that Mr. Zakrevsky actually appeared before the Town of Oneonta Board at its last meeting to talk about his proposal for bringing a 25% increase in gas to Oneonta through fracked gas carrying tractor trailers, otherwise known as bomb trucks. So this is a bomb truck proposal for the Town of Oneonta, brought to you by your IDA. But he admitted that the proposal he was submitting was in fact based on, I quote, ridiculous numbers. And in his op-ed of last week in the Freeman's Journal, he admitted that it started out as a $1 million proposal, then went to a $5 million proposal, then went to a $15 million proposal. Now, of course, we know it's a $17.5 million proposal, which the person who submitted the grant application admitted is ridiculous and not to be believed. Well, how does the IDA submit a grant application based on numbers it believes are ridiculous and not to be believed? And by the way, who pays for this? It isn't NYSEG, an affiliate of Spanish Iberdrola, who pays for it. Iberdrola is a little bit too smart for that. They have the ratepayers pay for it. So in fact, your IDA is proposing that the ratepayers of Oneonta pay the $17.5 million that this fracked gas infrastructure will cost. He also goes on to say in the columns that ask for how many permanent jobs will be created by your proposal, Mr. Zakrevsky answers 0. Okay, I've given you a copy of the grant application, and I've actually wrote a little memo annotating back to the application, so you can find it for yourself if you haven't already noticed it. He also binds the IDA to contribute $1.75 million in cash to the project. That's their own money. He certifies that that's available and ready to be contributed. This is 10% of the $17.5 million, which he claimed was ridiculous. But he has certified that the IDA is going to contribute this amount. And lastly, and perhaps most deviously, he claims that this whole proposal is actually required to help a handful of customers in the Oneonta region who for a week or two a year switch to oil as their energy source, the so-called interruptible gas service customers. So ratepayers are supposed to spend $17.5 million to help a handful of customers for 2 weeks a year who would otherwise switch to oil. And the reason he says we should try to help these customers is because oil, it emits greenhouse gases. It's really dangerous to the environment. But he makes no mention of how much gas is going to be emitted as a result of trucking it in huge trucks day in and day out into Oneonta, in building the pipelines, in compressing it in the first place, and then decompressing it and then delivering it to the end user. There is no mention made of the fact that methane is a more dangerous greenhouse gas even than carbon dioxide. So this is an entirely flawed application which you, as a supervising agency, should be concerned about, and you should seek its withdrawal. I will be the first to admit that we can't turn off all gas in our county. I am not proposing we do it. But based on our town laws, our comprehensive plans, the will of our people who fought hard for those changes in our law, we can draw the line at expansion of natural gas infrastructure, and we must draw the line there. We will not agree to expand natural gas infrastructure, at least not based on a plan that brings in fracked gas from Pennsylvania, as if the fact that it's happening across the border in Pennsylvania makes it pure. We don't want fracking, we don't want it here, we don't want it in Pennsylvania either, if the truth be told. The point is, we do need a viable energy plan for our county, for our region. You, as our representatives, have the duty to actually take some steps to initiate some planning for this, so that we don't have your IDA coming and suddenly saying, oh my God, we have an energy shortage in Oneonta. If we have an energy shortage in Oneonta right now, it's your fault. Get going, prepare a plan, get the stakeholders involved, get the towns involved. People, we have very talented people in this community willing to participate in planning. It's a travesty that we don't have a plan. It is almost 4 years since the fracking ban. So I think it's time, and this I agree with the IDA and Mr. Zekrowski, that we do need energy planning. But while we have that planning, we do not allow the construction of any more dangerous infrastructure, and certainly not more bomb trucks on the roads leading into Oneonta. Thank you very much.
Like to speak? I'm Russell Ahrens. I'm an employee of Otsego County. I work in the Adult Protective Unit. I live at 180 County Highway 26, and the reason why I'm here today is Kathy Clark, our county attorney, our representative here, and a number of reps that were sitting at the time when 4 years ago on this very meeting, it was applauded that Maria's home was sold. It was also announced at that time that $180,000 had been realized. Today I see our deputy treasurer is here. Glad he's here. It's, by my calculations, our sale this year reaped over $1 million. Is that correct in any way? He's no answer right now, but I guess we have to add it up. Now, last time I'm not sure if that $180,000 included the $25,000 that was pilfered by a county employee. Done quite transparently, yet it took over 2 years for this to come forward. Now, can you imagine how Maria felt, and Bob Forrest, who's here today, saved the Forrest farm, I may add, how they felt when it was applauded that their homes had been taken. Yet they couldn't transfer the title because Judge Burns had put a hold on that. And I made an announcement at the auction which unfortunately repressed the price of her home, but yet our county treasurer had suggested that Maria Jello could have somebody else buy it for her, and then after 3 years, she could be entitled to perhaps buy it back. Well, now it's been 3 years since you transferred the title. 14 months had gone by. We came in front of this board every month, begging and pleading for understanding to take the legitimate tax money. This county, and no man, is entitled to more than what a person owed. And for you to take more than that ahead of time is wrong. Last month you had a man here, he couldn't even talk, but the gal that was with him talked. But he was at the auction, and his family had to buy his place back for 3 times what he owed. And he didn't seem to be a man of high means. Now this place here, you finally acknowledged after 28 years. Oh, yeah, there is an ethics law. I've been in front of you for 4 years talking about this. I'm going to bring the words of our late Jim Castani, our attorney at the time, who had said, well, we shouldn't have to, but if we have to, we'll bring ethics into this. Well, now it's here. And you've made a mockery of this ethics board. To put Kim Muller in that position when we knowingly know that she's best friends, by what's been written in the press, with Kathy Clark, who was the perpetrator in this, is disgusting. This board needs to do the right thing. Mediate with Mrs. Agello and find a solution to this. Rescission is the word. You can go through this with nobody at fault. But let me remind you that this greedy auction company, and here's their thing, took over 40 properties out of the auction this year. 40 properties. You look at the numbering here, they're missing. And by the way, Mr. Frazier, I look at you, I think of that veteran, that combat veteran, that they mocked at the auction because they tried to go in his house, and he didn't even know it was being lost, as I understood from the auctioneer. They made a mockery of this man. This is a disgusting thing that what you're doing. You're only entitled to the tax and the penalties. And taking any more of that will bring a constant protest from people like me. It will not stop here. There's no threats against you, and by the way, $50,000 for a study. Most of the people on Smoky Hollow Road do not want it. You'll find that out as we go forward. I know it's funny. You know them all, right? So do I. Thank you.
My name's Robert Force. I reside at 65 Lake Street, Patchogue, New York. The former owner of 921 Route 51, Gilbertsville, New York. Mortgage-free property I owned for 30 years. I'd like to read to you some of the bullet statements I have. January of 2013, Otsego County commenced instant proceedings seeking foreclosure on 3 properties for non-payment of tax related to the year 2000. They were granted their request and took possession of the deeds of 2 free properties. They started these proceedings 16 months before the final due date for 2013 taxes. The due date is June 30th of 2014. You took my property 1 year back, taxes owed. Otsego County did not have a board voter resolution to sell my property nor transfer my deeds. The first time in the history of Otsego County, same with Maria Jello. July 15, 2014, 14 days after the tax payment due date, my wife Donna Force called the treasurer, Dan Crow, to pay the property taxes for 2011-2013. He refused to take our back taxes for 2013. He stated that once we missed the June 30th deadline, I could not stop this foreclosure process. The property was put up for auction block August 20th, 2014 in Oneonta. The county gave no consideration that I was in a health facility recovering from knee surgery and depended on my wife to pay the taxes. She thought I said July 30th. It was June 30th. We were 15 days late. Imagine that. Imagine that. My wife's disabled with MS. We brought letters to this board that she has problems with her memory, but that didn't matter. That didn't matter. July 16th of 2014, contacted Jim Costanza, my former attorney. He contacted Otsego County Treasurer, Dan Crow, and Otsego County Attorney Helen Tacoma to accept the back taxes, but was denied on July 18, 2014. Judge Burns presided. He questioned the Otsego County Attorney, why won't you let the Forces pay their back taxes? He also asked her, how much do the Forces owe? The Otsego County Attorney, Helen Tacoma, had no answers for the Judge Burns. The County Attorney asked if she could get back to the judge by 3 p.m. Why wasn't this case thrown out of court? She came unprepared to court. Answer that question. We all know why. Judge Burns ordered the county attorney to make an announcement at the auction that there was a stay on the conveyance of the deeds and that the property was in litigation. By order of the county, we had to give the attorney a check for $21,989.11 to put in escrow. We didn't know that amount. We only owed $13,000 at the time. This is the first time in the history of Otsego County that anyone had to put money in escrow. November 5th, 2014, extended a meeting to request that my properties be redeemed. We sent copies of back taxes, letters to my wife's neurologist due to her memory loss and MS. We stated that we only owed our 2011 taxes at the time of the auction on August 20, 2014. 7 of the board meetings, including Rick Holst, asked for us, why are we here? It takes 4 years to foreclose on a property, and you can pay the day of the auction. He didn't even know it was a litigation, nor did a lot of other people who were here at that time. You did not know it was a litigation. What's that tell you? Was it put under the carpet? You steal my property that I owned for 30 years? Jack Hansen was here. The veterans advocate for the county asked, why aren't you helping these veterans? He stated that not even the IRS would have seized their properties like this. Otsego County Board member Betty Swart stated that we should allow veterans to, God rest their soul, let veterans redeem their properties for their sacrifice for the service of our country. Betty Ann Swart then asked for a board vote. We went to a back room. She asked that I could redeem my property. You voted no. In that back room, we made a comment about a flag. And Maria Jellick brought in here, that came off the casket of her husband that died at Agent Orange, a combat vet. You were intimidated by that flag. And then you laughed about my uniform that I wore that day. What does Mr. Ford thinks? He's going to get sympathy from us? What kind of people are you? February 4th of 2015. Spoke to the Otsego County Board again about redeeming my property. Otsego County Board members, Betty Ann Swart, asked the county attorney, Uncle Copeland, how many years does it take to foreclose on a property? She stated 4 years. Betty Ann Swart corrected and said, you mean 4 consecutive years. Then she said, then why did you foreclose on this property when you only owes 2011, 2013 taxes? My 2012 taxes were paid. She became frustrated and said, we cannot talk because we're in litigation. But on that same day, you returned a property that was owned by Chuck Behringer that he bought at that auction, August 20th of 2014. Guess what? The sheriff showed up 6 months later. Guy gets out of the vehicle. The former owner from 30 years ago, you foreclosed on that property twice without the former owner knowing about it. Then this treasurer, Dan Kraut, allowed them to pay 10 years of back taxes prorated. Why can't we pay ours? Why couldn't we pay ours? You ever hear the 14th Amendment? We have copies of checks even of people that paid late in 2015, and you still didn't redeem our properties. May 7th, I went to the appellate court after we failed March 23rd. I wonder why. Who represented the county? Alan Kokomo. The judge went against us. I didn't find out till May 7th, 2015, because our attorney, former attorney, Jim Castani, passed away. We found out this decision. I went to Mr. Trossett. He said he couldn't handle my case, but 2 weeks later, he took on her case. Amazing. May 18th, received a return call from Otsego County Dan Mule, because I asked him, when I first talked to him, he's told me it takes 5 years to foreclose on a property. Why couldn't I pay the day of the auction? Well, that all changed because Dan Krause said he owed my 2000 taxes. I have a copy of that. I paid them. So it seems like some people can pay, some people can't. July 1st, Rick Holst, Ed Lentz, Kathy Clark, and Dan Crow wanted to transfer the deeds to the bidder, but could not get a full vote because Betty Ann Sword walked out of that meeting. And she stated, this is the first time she's seen board members and the treasurer be so aggressive in trying to transfer deeds of property when he's still in litigation. August 5th, the county board did not make a board vote nor a resolution to transfer my property to the bidder. The board chair, Kathy Clark, took it upon herself to issue quitclaim deeds and transferred our properties. The document, when I questioned it, the document was mailed Friday, August 7th, 2015. The bidder was on my property that weekend, before the deeds were even recorded. Kicked down my doors, threw everything out. We were never notified by the sheriff's evicted. And by the way, that's in the catalog that they have when you have these land sales. I have to be evicted. Why wasn't I evicted? What did you do to her? She didn't get through the appellate court. You came in the middle of the night and threw her off her property. What do you call that? Justice? Due process? Keep bowing your head up there. August 19th, we wanted a release of our escrow, over $21,000. He sent me a check that he didn't even sign, the treasurer. Tell me that's not spiteful. And finally, I did get a check back. Guess what? It wasn't the right amount, but we'll tell you at the end of this story what that's about. September 9th, we filed an Article 78 with my new attorney, Nir Mosley. December 2015, Attorney Mosley met with Attorney Kokomo to discuss the case. Mosley presented checks from property owners who paid their taxes late in 2015. In both cases, the county backdated the receipts to June 30th for payments received at July 1st. One was dated July 1st, the other August 13th. Attorney Kokoma stated and followed up with a letter that the county would like to negotiate prior to going to the New York State District, Eastern District of New York. She stated that she was not sure how she would be able to transfer the property back. Well, that's amazing. In 2015, you transferred the property back that was foreclosed on, what, 30? Twice, and the guy owned it 30 years ago. Equal justice. The Constitution, 14th Amendment. January 26th, Otsego Supreme Court Judge Burns' decision was made. Article 7 was dismissed on prejudice statute of limitation grounds, and that I received due process. December 7th, I attended Otsego County, and they announced my lawsuit with the Eastern District. No one here was aware of it. You know how you found out about it? I paid $1,400 to put it in your circular because none of the newspapers would put it in for me. That what you did to me and her. Isn't that a shame? You know how much I got in this? $60,000, and I'm still going to court. I'm going to bring it to the Supreme Court if I have to. It's in D.C. now. It's just waiting. And I hope they use my story to show how this judicial system in this country is so corrupt and your greed. It's all about your greed. Stealing from veterans, disabled, and elderly people. You should be ashamed of yourselves. I'm disabled. My wife is. What are you? What has this country become? Really? This is what I fought for? Are you kidding me? This isn't the country I grew up in. I'd like to show you the answers that you get from the attorney and the representatives. My question about the 4 years. I get a real property tax law that doesn't even exist. I asked about the state law, or the laws that states I can pay the day of the auction. The answer to this question requires legal opinion and research, and the county does not provide legal opinions to the public. We recommend you consult your attorney. You know what a FOIA request is? The federal offense where you don't answer a FOIA request. Do you know that? Let's talk about the embezzlement, $25,000. We all know what happened there, don't we? The guy that laundered the money, for the guy that worked for the treasurer, pay the money back. It's only a misdemeanor. Really? It's called a felony, grand larceny. He should have been doing it in prison. And the guy that did it, they still haven't prosecuted him. But you took my property within a year. No due process. You just did what you wanted to do. You bragged in the paper. You never lost a case. We know why. It's all going to come out. It's all going to come out. I'd like to tell you also that I have an email where your treasurer stated in 2017, you didn't have 5 years on me, so now you said 1 year in rem. Isn't this amazing how people send me stuff? This email states 3 years in rem to 2017, you're taking properties. You took mine at 1. It's in black and white. Then he states that we saw a picture of the background of each parcel, including understanding which ones are abandoned, which ones have owners who are making an effort to pay. He's also sharing 3 months, a list of properties. 3 months prior to the auction, the county employees. There's your ethics. Who's in charge of the ethics here? Here you go. There's evidence. You have no ethics here. How many county employees own 4 or 5 properties? I wonder how many properties does the person that took your property? 5. Sounds like a crime ring to me. Sounds like a business. This has been going on for decades in this county. Decades. And you got away with it. Even my former attorney was skimming money. Did you know that? I didn't find out till last November when I came here and met with the DA. Imagine that, skimming money from me. My money in your escrow, in your account, which means I paid my taxes. Over $20,000 that I didn't even owe. Closing, I'd like to state that refusing to accept our tax in Otsego County broke its own laws. The county resolution number 26 of 1981, resolution 234 of 1985, states that any partial land acquired by the county for delinquent taxes may be redeemed by its former owner by paying the treasurer the total amount of tax, including interest penalties and other costs. The decision not to accept our tax in return as per the county was the sole discretion of the treasurer, Dan Crow. That's what your DA told me. No collusion, no corruption. It's his sole discretion. But yet you have resolutions that have never been amended. These are still your laws, your resolutions. The resolutions also state that the property owner can pay all taxes due at the day of the county land auction. County laws, state laws were broken in the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. I will never stand down until I receive justice and due process, which is denied by this board. I now refer to you as the Otsego County crime ring. And believe me, you're all over the place. Out west, down south, I'm speaking at a lot of land right rallies. Hopefully someday that this will go in higher places, which it's currently almost there. And when it does, hopefully your name's going to be all over this country for what you did to me and her. You should hang your heads in shame. The message you sent to your constituents, if you're a veteran, disabled, or elderly, you're going to lose your profit. Lose your job, you're going to lose your property. Shame on you. May God have mercy on you. Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Dick Downey. I live at 627 Fox Island Road, Otsego, New York. I just want to make some comments on what I heard from Professor O'Donnell and Nicole Phil here. Basically, today is the first day of school, and we have 762 kids going to Unitego schools. 20 years ago, we had 1,471. The Empire Center has a report on school enrollments in New York State, and it ranges from deep purple, they made a map, deep purple, and then they have lavender, they have pink, pinker pink, and white. White is the increase in enrollments in schools. There's two counties that have them, that's Queens and Staten Island. Where you will find the deep purple, where there's been 25% drop in enrollment, it's upstate New York. Jody Zabreski was writing about the problem we have up here. We have no jobs. No jobs, he says, at least the article headline, no jobs, no gas equals no jobs. And that's the second observation I want to say is that trucking gas is an awkward way of transporting gas. We need pipelines upstate New York. We need transmission lines, we need the distribution lines. That will get us the jobs up here. Trucking is very awkward. I don't know if it can be solved. This will be up to you guys. But we do need pipelines. And want to remind you that pipelines don't tip over. Okay? Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Maria Agello, and I have my property transferred through a tax auction. There isn't much I can add to Mr. Force's story, except to say, with his permission, that Donna is in dire straits right now. She's had a stroke, she has a bad heart, she's on a feeding tube. It is hard. She came here to this board in her wheelchair and begged you to please let them pay their back taxes on a property that they bought for their honeymoon and wedding that they'd had for 30 years. And this is how you solve it, by taking it away from them. You have no heart. You have no conscience. Otherwise, you would understand the psychological damage it does to someone who goes with money in hand. Well, what else could you do? You went to the treasurer and he tells me I could buy it back myself or have someone buy it for me. He's shaking me down for $100 grand. I owed not even $6,700 plus penalties. The resolution stated you could pay. You could pay with more penalty up to $500. We have people at the auction that don't even know you can't pay till the day of the auction. Resolutions. Resolutions. Bob gave you the number. Look them up. Where's your proceedings of the county in your little blue books? You don't even name the properties anymore. There's no resolution that states you sold them. I'm looking. Nothing. Nothing. You shamed us. You shamed us that year. Our names were in the paper. Our names were in the resolutions. Our names were in flyers handed out that we owed this much and disgrace on you. You're deadbeats. We're not deadbeats. We were people that wanted to pay. And we were rejected. We foiled. Where is that resolution that amended all the previous resolutions that stated we could not pay? That woman that was here last month, she asked the same question. Her answer was, there isn't one. Even our treasurer was so sure, he told her, I'm sure there is one. I don't know the number, but I'm sure there is one. And he was wrong. People don't even know you can't pay till the day of the auction. They don't even know this. What happened to ethics? What happened to compassion? What happened to knowledge? Nobody communicates with anybody. You do things in secret. Where is the resolutions in here that really matter? You have resolutions for 4-H week. Well, God bless them. That's a beautiful thing to do. But we need our homes back. Donna is dying. And to my dying day, I will be here. I requested an ethics review. I will be there. I want a review of the sale and transfer. You came to me, Bob was right, and I'm going to close with this. He was right. We had no idea this was going to come down on us. I go home, and I see the bidder's husband chasing my horse in the field. And the troopers coming and banging on my door. I don't even know what happened. Surprise, you're all smirking at me on the front desk that day. Smirking. And I'm thinking, well, maybe we might have something good going on. I go home. I get accosted by the bidder, banging on my door, harassing me for months before and weeks afterwards. She tells me to move the horse. All right, big country, gotta go. Then she tells me, you can't keep him, he's mine. Is this what we do here in Otsego County? We support brutal evictions like that? You support that, all of you? We wanted to pay our taxes. We didn't come after the house was sold. We came weeks before, asking for justice. Please, let us pay. That gentleman couldn't. You sell it for 10 times what it's worth. My house, 10 times what I owed. And what happened? You took everything from me. I'll be here. I'll be here. Because it's not only about me. It's not only about Bob. It's about everyone behind me and all of them in front of me that you did not allow to pay. Have the fall's coming. I hope you had a great weekend. I'll be here. I'm an employee and I'm proud of the job I do because I help people. I want to be kind to them. I'm not here to judge them. I'm here to help them come from wherever they came from, to lift them up and to be a facilitator and not an obstacle. So, may God have mercy on all of us. Thank you.
Anyone else? Minutes, August 1st. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Presentation of petitions.
I have the monthly report of alternatives to incarceration program services rendered by Catholic Charities for the month of July. I have 2 public hearing notices from the Otsego County Capital Resource Corporation. There is a public hearing scheduled for September 25th at 10 a.m. at the county office building as related to financial assistance for the proposed asset and Templeton Foundation.
They want to smash a rice spot.
Okay, special presentations.
Thank you, Chairman. Emergency management plan for the county. And the second being done this spring was a county emergency preparedness assessment, also referred to as SEPA. The SEPA that was done was an update of a 2015 original SEPA that was done. State now requires that the SEPAs be done every 3 years. It's used as a tool to guide disaster preparedness and response efforts. It's not considered a scorecard or a ranking system. Constant evolution. It is done in each county and New York City. What we talked about in the county overview, population, the square miles, number of localities, the fact that we've had 13 declared disasters. These are federally declared disasters in Otsego County.
I had to Orange County job.
The whole time since they've filed disasters. Not specifically for a 3-year period, thank goodness. Response agencies, number of hospitals, nursing homes, colleges, universities. Talk about the county overview, the geography, the topography, the population centers, shifts, whether it be in certain areas where you have a rapid growth of the Amish population, major industries, highlighting mass gatherings, special events, such as the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies each year, the baseball camps, county fairs, various 4th of July events that are held. So what we talk about is we're susceptible for a variety of natural, accidental, technological, and man-made hazards. The main one being when they found the study, and this seems to be a common theme throughout every county, cybersecurity is the biggest risk to the county. The fear of an attack, the fear of dismantling or disabling a total system is something that has to be looked at. Other things are flooding, major transportation accidents, hazmat releases, major fires, and critical infrastructure failures. Based on
recent history, what you see in the news now, we decided to add a new risk this year, being a vehicle ramming attack, and our response to that and our approach to how we would respond to that. We also increased the risk of hurricanes, tropical storms, being the wind and storm surges that we may be affected with. 27 capabilities were examined. 4 capabilities are ranked high, 21 are ranked medium, and 2 are ranked low. Since the last SEPA, there's been improvements in 10 areas, a decrease in 1 capability. The state commented that we've made considerable progress regarding on-site incident management, health preparedness, fatality management, and that the changes still remain, or the challenges remain, with cybersecurity. So what we're going to do is the notable differences in 2015 versus 2018. Again, we added winds and tropical storms, added the vehicle ramming attack, talked about our capabilities for on-site management, search and rescue, law enforcement response. They use a acronym called POET, which stands for the planning, the organization, equipment, training, and exercise. And what this does, this provides the notable differences. We have an increase in planning, an increased preparedness in interoperable or emergency communications. That's due to the work that's been done in increasing the radios, adding new towers, allowing for more interoperability between agencies. Public information and warning. There's an increase in the equipment, in the exercises. Unfortunately, we had to practice our capabilities for public outreach with the HyperReach system. Being able to post to Facebook during Winter Storm Stella, that actually made communications much easier. The HyperReach program that we have, that messages that were sent out from our office reached over 49,000 people within 4 minutes of being sent out. So we have the capabilities there. There's an increase in cooperation between private sector and non-governmental organizations. We have a very strong relationship with the Red Cross when it comes to setting up shelters. We have good interaction with power companies when there's interruptions, when there's estimated restoration times that are out there. Critical infrastructure, key resource protection. Planning, we talk about the safety committee, the ad hoc committee that reports to public safety. The safety committee examines the buildings and the properties of the county, recommending improvements to safeguards for employee safety, for ground safety, gated towers, concerns with the alarm systems, increase of alarms that are at the county tower sites. Cybersecurity. There's been some improvement with that. However, we have felt, and the state agrees, that we still lack training in cybersecurity. I have talked to Brian about that. We're working on establishing some more training for cybersecurity for the employees, for email safety. Those are items that we're working on. You'll see that we removed chemical, biological, radiation, and nuclear detection and interdictions. Every county in the state has removed that from their SEPAs. It's finding that this is more, and obviously is a very specialized event, so therefore the ability for a county to sustain the adequate operations of that training is cost prohibitive for the facts that we have. We have abilities to work with the state police, with the National Guard, to have these events detected and actions being taken for them. Law enforcement counterterrorism opportunities, we see an increase in equipment. Grant processes have allowed us to improve the operations and the equipment that we have for the sheriff's department, for the state police, for the city and village police departments in the area. And on-site incident management, the organization and the exercises, again being able to use the Hall of Fame planning as part of our organization and exercises, real-life emergencies with Snowstorm Stella are all things that they found that we have improved on. Transportation, the ability to facilitate transportation. Increased equipment and newer equipment for county highways have allowed for us to increase our scores there. Health emergency preparedness. We have hired a community health preparedness coordinator for the Department of Health. So we have that. That was something that was lacking the last time around. Health Department has provided for exercises that are required by the state each year. Each year we have to do what they call a pod, which is a point of distribution for vaccinations in the event of an outbreak of some kind. We actually held the pod training this year for the county that went very well, scored very well. We have an increasing fatality management equipment. We now have the ability, if we need to, we have increased morgue space that we can use. And then restoration of infrastructure and critical services, an increase in equipment scores. We have the opportunity, the county IT system has been set up on a redundancy period, there's backups. 911 has a backup center in the basement of this building that is fully functional 24/7. It's a turnkey operation. Walk in, turn the computer on, you can start working without a loss of 911 capabilities. So those are the things that they have found. In conjunction with the SEPA, we also went through and had a firm come in and we updated the emergency management plan for the county. State of New York requires that every county have an emergency management plan. It's a comprehensive approach. It deals with risk reduction, response, and recovery. What are we doing to reduce the risks? How are we going to answer the call? And how does the county assist the recovery? It emphasizes the interrelationship between county government, county entities, and local entities that we support. It's our responsibility to provide assistance to communities when they have fully exhausted their resources. We have a responsibility to assist the local governments in disaster after they've committed all their resources. We have the avenues to work with the state, to request state resources, and then the chain continues. So we have that responsibility. It's outlined in the management plan. As part of the CAMP, we also have a continuity of government and a continuity of operations plan. Every department in the county has submitted and has enrolled in the continuity of operations. That involves the critical staff that needs to be notified. It involves alternate work locations if a building is deemed unusable for work status. If it's 197 Main, a majority of the people will go to the Meadows building. The Meadows building is differentiated out between 242 Main and Oneonta and back up here at 197 Main. That was about a 9-month process, and I applaud every single department that worked on that. The CAMP is in the final review now. It just got a few things that need to be done, and that will hopefully be presented to the board next month for acceptance for the comprehensive emergency management plan for the county. So we have made progress. We are keeping up with the state requirements, and we have improvements that are going on that we see. Just as a point of reference, the county emergency preparedness assessment involved several meetings. One large meeting where we had 46 people representing 16 different agencies that were involved in the presentation. The state representative said by far it was the biggest crowd that they ever had for a event. Most counties, the emergency preparedness assessment consists of 5 or 6 people sitting around a table and doing the SEPA. So we had organizations from the state, from the county, from the private sector. So we tried to do a all-comprehensive as best we could approach to everything. And we go through and we can constantly update based on changes that are going on. So thank you all very much for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to present.
Questions, Claire?
Could you name some, I was at that meeting with the 46, I said there had at least 50 people in it. I mean, the city was involved.
City
Fire
of
department,
Oneonta.
Homeland Security.
Yep.
I mean, New York State Police, the Sheriff's Department, I mean.
National Guard, Red Cross, New York State Department of Homeland Security, Emergency Services, State Office of Emergency Management. Our grants people were there. A wide range, most of my office was represented. City police, volunteer fire departments, a couple towns had representatives there. So we tried to encompass as many people as we could to get a true picture of where we stand and what our capabilities are.
The city manager was there, but also they're the ones that came up with the rating that everybody saw today. It wasn't your office that we're changing these to make it look good. It was comprehensive, with 50 people sitting in a room saying, this is where we were, this is where we are today, and everyone addressed those numbers and scored that.
Correct, and there's actually a few things, and Ed will testify to this. We scored ourselves a little bit worse, and we had state office emergency management people going, you are not giving the county enough credit for what you've done. You need to increase the score. So it's, as Ed said, we did not grade ourselves. If we had graded ourselves, I guarantee the scores probably would not be what they are at right now. They would be considerably less.
Thank you. Good job.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, sir.
Thanks.
Okay. Susan Russ and Amanda Canero, our interns, for your presentation.
Morning, everybody. Our office last year was awarded a local government efficiency grant to continue our local highway roads program. We were here last summer at this time to present everything we did on the county side of things. That grant allowed us to continue this program, and we hired Amanda Canoro, she's a senior at SUNY ESF, and Susan Bruce as our 2 interns for this program. Again, it was another successful year. They did a tremendous amount of work. We worked a little bit more on the local level this year, but also came up with a capital improvement budget on the county side of things. So with that, I'll turn it over to Amanda. Susan was able to make it today due to a scheduling conflict with classes, so Amanda will be doing this presentation.
Thank you, Eric. So we looked at making a budget plan, as Eric said, but I'm Amanda Canaro and Eric was our acting supervisor. We went to Cornell Local Roads Program for 2 days, and that is where we learned how to assess and survey the roads. We also learned how to input data into CampRS, which is a software which I will explain later in the slideshow. And we learned how to create a budget plan for each municipality. Cornell taught us, road conditions and what the structure of a road is. So when you're driving on a road, there's more than just what you see. There's a huge base underneath, which is very important to the longevity of the road, which you can see a cross section of the road on the screen. They also told us the importance of ditching and getting water off the roadways. You have shoulders, a cross slope, and a side slope in a drainage ditch, which is highlighted. That creates so that the water can go down to where water can be stored and moved off the roads. Water can be a huge damage to roadways. And now we'll show you a video of our local roads and how water has affected our own local roads. This isn't local. That was just severe to show you. So this is on Thurston Hill in Springfield. This is called edge cracking. This is due to improper drainage. And then this is also longitudinal traverse tracking due to improper drainage. The water creates the cracks in the road, which then creates potholes and, ruins your cars as you're driving. And this is in Springfield on County Road 27. We also looked at gravel roads. So this is washout and rutting. So as you can see, there's no ditching on the side where all the vegetation is. So during storms or when it rains, all the water is going to go down the path of the road, the unpaved road, and it washes out the road completely and makes these huge ruts. This is on Walnut Grove Road, and as you can see on the side, it creates this desired route where the locals have now just gone over where the rutting is. So now it's just a wider mud pit, kind of. And also in Middlefield on Indian Run Road, you see poor drainage, there's no ditching, and this results into a poor road. You can see all the patching up on the top, and if you don't do ditching and you just continue to just do a top layer of asphalt, it doesn't solve anything, and you're not solving the problem. Here's some ditching that Middlefield did, which is some pretty good ditching. As you can see, there was edge cracking on the side, which was caused from improper ditching, but they are tackling it. We also looked at road bleeding. Road bleeding can be very unsafe for vehicles. When it rains, it makes it very slippery, and it's from, I believe it's the emulsifier doesn't stick to the asphalt, so then all the rocks and what your tires grip on, it makes it more of a dangerous roadway, and especially for motorcycles. So this was fair condition on Springfield, in Springfield. But next you will see on Public Landing Road, this is poor bleeding. This is very, very dangerous for cars and motorcycles to be driving on if it rained. Very slippery conditions. And we also were taught this coffee mug test at Cornell. So basically, if you were driving around with a coffee mug and it would spill on you or it wouldn't, this is sped up. This is definitely sped up. Just for time's sake. But if it was going to spill on you, that means it's a really rough road. And then we also looked at some throw and roll, pothole and edge crack repairs that the town of Middlefield did. And here is a 94 PCI road, which I will explain later what a PCI is. It's basically a great road that Hartwick had. And you see on the right, you see deer that cross the road, which was my favorite part of the video. And then Susan actually went out and saw the county doing some work on some of the county highways. So after the work, that would also be a 94 PCI local road, a local highway. And this video is really to show you how much, the intensity of building the roads, how many people are involved, the machinery, the cost, and it's pretty extensive. What Susan described to me of the trail of cars and the huge trucks, which you'll see, it will zoom back out so you can see. I'm sure everyone's been waiting behind them before and seen it, but so here it is, so you can see how big of machinery is being used. And then you have to think of them getting the material from the suppliers, the diesel or gas that goes in the truck. And then we'll continue with it. No, you're fine. Awesome. Okay. So after we looked at those road conditions, we had, you can't really see it from far away, but we had a sheet for asphalt pavement and then a sheet for unpaved. And basically we looked at the longitudinal and alligator cracking and other things that are on that list and rated the severity and extent. So if the severity was high and it went the whole section of the road, it would be a severity extent of 9. If it was really low, it would be 1, or there's an option for no defects. So from there, you take those sheets and then you use CAMP-RS, and CAMP-RS is Cornell Asset Management Program. It is an asset management program system that takes the current road conditions And then it gives you alternatives for repairs and develops a long-term maintenance repair program and budget. And the goal of this program is to best allocate funds in the roads for the most cost-effective way. So from the Camp RS, it gives you a pavement condition index. It's a PCI number. So a road can either range from 0 to 94. 0 is saying it needs total reconstruction, it's a terrible road. And 94 means it's no repairs and it's in very good condition. This is an indicator for the recommended repairs for that section of road. So the PCI has this algorithm that tells you what kind of repair is needed for that road so that in the end we can budget it out. So these defects determine the repair category that you select in the end. So then looking at this little chart, so you see very poor to very good. Very poor would be 0, and then 94 would be very good. So over time, if you have a very poor road, the cost will be $4 to $5 more than doing preventive maintenance or routine maintenance, which, so this is still very poor, which is 0, and this is 94. So if it's a 0 and needed reconstruction, it's going to cost $4 to $5 more than preventive maintenance, which is compared to $1, if that all makes sense.
That's per unit too.
Per unit, yeah, sorry. So, in the long run, if you have better roads and you maintain them, then it's going to be cheaper in the end than to wait for them to drop all the way down to reconstruction. So there needs to be preventive maintenance care during the time to save money for the county. So then we met with highway departments. We met with Unadilla, Rodney, Renwick, and Edmonston, Danny Haas. And we also met with Otsego County, Bill and Rich. They assigned their repair cost per unit square foot, and then we put that into the mileage that we collected on the road, and then we applied the repair type each road. We learned highway terminology, because I don't know much about it, but now I do. And we conversed on their current fundings to understand where their money is coming from currently. So their money currently is coming from, for highway repairs, it's called CHIPS. It's Consolidated Local Street and Highway Improvement Program. It can roads can only be eligible for CHIPS 5 to 10 years, depending on the last repair that was done. So say a chip seal is a 5-year cycle, they can't touch that road for another 5 years. They can't use that money until that 5-year cycle has run up. So even if a road needs preventive maintenance, they can't use any of their money to prevent it, so it's almost, the road could get really bad and then it actually costs more to fix it. So the idea is to keep good roads in good condition and follow the recommended repairs so that the county and local towns can save money. So they might need to find funding to lengthen the longevity of the roadways with not using CHIPS because of the cycle. So Town of Edmonston has 73 sections of road. The lowest PCI number was Hardwick Ave, and it was a PCI of 52. The highest PCI number was Parker Hill Road with a PCI of 94. There's 10 road sections that require total reconstruction, that's from 0 to 39 PCI, and 54 sections in very good condition, which is PCI of 70 and above. 9 sections in average condition and need some repairs, and PCI is from 40 to 69. That should have been flipped, sorry. So, currently they're using $180,000 from CHIPS on road and highway repair each year. But they will need an additional $70,539.26 needed per year to keep the good roads in good condition and follow the recommended repairs from Camp RS. So, looking at a 5-year, they would have to spend $70,539 each year, which is a grand total after 5 years of $352,696.36. And that has a 10% contingency into it if the numbers of oil and different materials used fluctuate, or if anything was to go wrong, there's a 10% contingency included in there. And then this is also to describe that if you get your good roads in good condition and get them above the 74 PCI, in the long run, you will spend less money just doing preventive and routine maintenance than to wait for it to get all the way down to do a rehab. So then the town of Unadilla, there's 77 sections. Lowest PCI was Latham Road with a PCI of 13. Highest PCI number was Alton to Forest Road, PCI of 94. 13 sections need reconstruction, 52 sections in very good condition, and 12 sections in average condition. 180,000 is spent on road repairs year to date from CHIPS. They will need 38,851 and 56 cents needed per year for the Camp RS recommended repairs to get those roads above the 70 PCI. And now looking at that in the 5-year plan, that's 38,851 and 56 cents for 5 years with a 10% contingency, and that's a total of 194,257 and 80 cents. Now, here's this again to describe that if you do routine maintenance and preventive maintenance, over time the county and the towns will save money. Now at Otsego County Highways, there's 537 road sections. Lowest PCI number is County Highway 17 with a PCI of 8. Highest PCI number, County Highway 47, has PCI of 94. There's 18 road sections in need of total reconstruction, 137 in very good condition, 381 road sections are in average condition, and the financial fallout of not maintaining these roads is severe. So, okay, this is a big number. $4,854,588.86 currently spent per year on highway repairs. They need $15,303,971. I think I said that wrong. And 10 cents needed per year to keep the good roads in good condition and get them above that 70 PCI number. So in the end, for the 5 years, they would be spending $15,303,971.10, and it would total to $76,519,855.50. And this one has a 15% contingency in it because of how many more roads they have, the pay rates could go up, inflation costs, and something could go wrong, equipment could break. Hopefully not. If you get the roads back up to 74 PCI, in the end you save money, and it's more routine maintenance, and yeah, reconstruction can be very expensive if you just let the roads go to where they're at right now. So thank you for your time. And if you have any questions? Yes.
So, Amanda, when you did your assessment
Yeah.
of the roads, is that just assessing the pavement condition, or are you assessing the base?
That would take pouring, so
It's
we
just
don't
an
have
assessment
that.
of the pavement
I know
condition.
that Danny Hawes, he talked about, he does a lot of coring, where he actually redid a couple of his, total reconstruction of his bases, because when you take a core sample of the road, you see the subbase, and he said it was very poor, so he put money into it, because he understands that you need to put money into it in the end to save money, because if he tries to just put stuff on top, it's just gonna get washed out or rutted and destroyed each year. But yeah, we just looked at the pavement conditions, we didn't do any core base samples.
Clarify that it's purely based on paving conditions.
Right.
One aspect of.
Right, but while looking at the pavement conditions, that's how you can understand what's going on beneath.
Right.
Because if you, let's say, I think on 28, I've been on 28 after it rains, and you're going from Cooperstown to, say, the Meadows, you can actually see where the big trucks have these big ruts where the water pools, and it's probably because the road wasn't built to sustain that kind of weight. So the base is not up to the weight standards of what's been going through on that road. So when you look at the road conditions from your eye level, not coring it, you can understand kind of what's going on underneath. But we didn't do any core samples. Yes.
Hi, does this study also consider, does it make recommendations for where ditching would be appropriate?
Yep.
Okay.
It looks at a lot of the problems is because of ditching, because of water, and because we live in I don't know, is this central New York technically? Yeah. There's gonna be a lot of freeze and thaw, and there's gonna be, the road's gonna break and the water's gonna get trapped. So, a lot of times it was ditching that was recommended on the repairs.
Out of the 537 sections, 75% of them were ditching right off, so, and we just aren't doing them. It's reality of county highway, talking to them, they are not ditching, they don't have enough crew to do ditching, so if it's being done, it's when they're gonna reconstruct the road.
Yeah.
So then my next question would be, so the $15 million a year estimate to keep the good roads good includes addressing bases and ditching?
So
Or no?
how this worked, it does not, it doesn't take into account sending out a separate ditching crew. That's just a snapshot in time. I'll say this too, that number, that 76 million, is actually already higher. That's from a year ago, we've already gone through another winter. And I think we were lenient with the actual roads that need reconstruction. I think there's more than just that fall into that 0 to 39. So, you know, that number is already low based on that. Ditching was not included. What we got out of county highway was kind of almost a max build out of that time. We took the highest repair category that they identified for those certain sections and applied that on the mileage and area of the road. So that 76 million is the number for road rehabilitation, but doesn't include things like ditching or culvert replacements, other things that would have to happen along the way as well. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, good
Dave, can I do a quick reading of This is the president of the New York State Association of Counties, Stephen Aquario. He's come at the request of the IDA committee. We've been spending the year, as you know, investigating the idea of county governance, building out the discussion on that topic. And we've had a phone interview with Mr. Aquario, and we felt that it was time to bring this idea to the full board. And so our hope this morning is to have Steve give us a presentation on the broad, we've gone over the broad county governance, but maybe help us fine tune what our next steps would be, where we're going to go in this process, what are our options as we consider county governance. And we really appreciate that you came down this morning, and hopefully people have questions, and we're ready to listen to what you have to say. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for having me. Take a few minutes after a board agenda, talk about forms of county government. It goes back to the Board of Supervisors. That's where we came from. All counties, we have 62 counties in New York. There's 5 boroughs of New York City, so that leaves 57 counties. But we were all boards of supervisors in the beginning. We had a dual function of a town and a county, and that was the function, and that's how it worked. And we have, I believe, still about 18 or 20 boards of supervisors that are out there functioning on a Monday as a town supervisor, and on a Thursday coming together as the Board of Supervisors. Saratoga County, Schoharie County Board of Supervisors right next door. So it started like that, and then really in the 1950s, things started to change a bit, and the state statutes changed to allow alternative county government law to come into existence. And that's the beauty of our county law right now. It provides optional forms of government. So that's why you see Schoharie hiring a county administrator. And that's why you see other forms of government with a county manager, like Schenectady as a county manager. Schoharie with a county administrator. But even in those two examples, they're very different power that's granted to these professionals to run the day-to-day operations in these counties. Schenectady has really given the county manager a lot of more powers than Schoharie has, given its administrator. But I think what's important to remember for the Board of Representatives is you always maintain the power by which you were elected to office. You can never delegate it, or you can never absolve yourself of that powers. You're delegating it. That's what you're doing if you choose to change the structure of how you want the day-to-day governance of the county. You're delegating it to an individual to act on your collective behalf. So that's what you would do if you wanted to move in that direction. So we had a Board of Supervisors form of government, we have alternative county government law, which allows you to change the form of government, and you can do it in one of three ways. The first way is a charter, is creating a charter. And the charter would go to the people at a referendum, and the people would approve a charter form of government. And in that charter form of government, you could decide whether you wanted an elected county executive as a representative of the whole county, or if you wanted the ability to engage a county manager on your behalf appointed by the board. So a charter form of government. The second form of government that you could do is an appointed administrator or an appointed manager. And there are differences between the two. And the third form of county government is what you have. It's run by the board itself, the chair and the clerk of the board, with the county attorney, although the county attorney is functioning in all three forms of government. 23 counties have a charter. So 23 counties pulled themselves out of the county law and created their own form of government. And of those 23, 18 have a county executive. Albany, Nassau, Suffolk, Westchester. Most of the population counties have a county executive. There's a few smaller ones, like Montgomery, recently changed its form of government, abolishing the Board of Supervisors and creating a county legislature, and at the same time, in 2011, I believe it was, created a county executive position. The last county to change itself was Montgomery. Before that, it was Ulster, I believe in 2008, around there, and before that in Rockland County in the late 1980s. So it doesn't happen very often where a complete charter is written and a county executive is created, but those are the types of functions that take place when you change the form of government. There are 21 counties with a manager and an administrator. So 18 executives and 21 managers and administrators. 7 counties operating like Otsego. Those being Shenango, Columbia, Delaware, Hamilton, Tioga, and Wyoming. All rural counties. Fully functional form of government that you have here in Otsego, and fully functional in those other 6 counties that operate with a legislative body. You use a committee structure here to advance policy. The committee structure would continue under any other form of government that you chose to look into. It would not go away. In talking to county managers and county administrators, they feel that they are your representative of the board, and they are also the representative of the department head. That they work with them and for them, not really the other way around. It's counter to what we might think if you created that position where the department head would feel perhaps threatened by an administrator or a manager. When I talk to the administrators and managers, they feel they're the advocate for that department head to you, to come to you on their behalf, or together to the board and approach you together. And so they're generally formed these administrative positions to improve efficiencies in county administration, freeing you to focus less on operations of the county and more on policy. That's the biggest change in the structure, is to free the chair up, free the clerk up, clerk of the board, Carol, from a lot of maybe administrative, operational issues of the county, and enable that manager or administrator to focus on the operations of it. Things like collective bargaining, labor relations, her out with foreclosure matters, assisting the county attorney on input from the public to take that in. Capital projects is a big one. The manager or administrator can do the day-to-day nuts and bolts. You're always going to have a general contractor out there with the private sector, but the administrator or manager can really help shepherd through capital projects, keep them on time, under budget, and advance that. Ultimately, the power resides with the board, of course, in those types of situations, but again, that's operational. And so the counties that have these administrative managers generally like that form of government. Rarely do they switch back, although Portland recently did switch back from its manager back to the board. But I think that they may, and Cayuga went back and forth, but recently went back to the managerial form of government. The manager or administrator also acts in some instances as the budget officer. So free that up from one of you, or if it is the chair, I'm not sure if it is the chair here or who is the budget officer here, but that person would help assemble the budget, help pull the departmental budget requests in, construct the broad parameters of that budget for ultimate presentation to you for public hearings and so forth and so on. And that has been a benefit that many counties see the administrator performing that function. But I think that it's a dynamic form of county law that we have here in New York State. It is a home rule state. It allows us to change our form of government based on how we want to change and what we want to be on a go-forward basis. I don't know if there's problems with the current structure here. Perhaps there's not. But I do think it is good for you to mention where you go from here, and I think it is worthy of taking a day. And I'll come back out where we can take a day and we can do 3 hours of sort of a mission of Otsego County, a vision of Otsego County, or a vision being the dream of the Board of Representatives here. What would be the best of all scenarios in its vision on a go-forward basis, a mission of what are actionable items that the community at large can see about its county, and then talk about core values. So a vision, a mission, and core values that you as the representatives of the people and seek public input on core values and have this type of 3-hour sort of discussion. And then after you go through this exercise, which we just did in Oneida and in Yates County and Ontario County, it would free you up for the afternoon to take another 3 hours and talk about your form of governance, to talk about the committee structure. Are the committees reflective of the modern needs of the county? What are the committee structure? Is solid waste, highways, health, public health, mental health, law enforcement, public safety? Are they the right committee structure? Or do you need to refresh that or restructure those committees and spend that afternoon talking about that, and then also talking about a county administrator position or post if that's the direction that you want to do. You don't have to change your form of government, but do you want to free yourself up to talk more about public policy issues, environmental issues, economic development issues, tourism issues, Some counties operate under an administrative code and a charter, or just a charter. An administrative code is the day-to-day details of the government, procurement policies, federal, state laws, all put into one document, which is updated annually, reflecting all the operational structure of the government in one code. But you don't have to have an administrative code. You don't have to have a charter. That's the beauty of the New York County law. It allows us to operate like we are operating presently in Otsego. So let me stop there to see if there's questions that you might have. What are the pros and cons of a county executive, you might ask? Is that something that you should consider in Otsego? So I'll stop there, just see if there's other questions on this topic.
I'd be interested in your opinion on the pros and cons of the executive versus the manager.
Okay, so the three forms, let's look at them. The county executive, countywide elected base. So he or she will be known as the person that you see generally in the newspaper, generally on the television, lets the public at large know that that's really a one-stop entrance into the county. Economic development, developers, public at large, seeing that this face of the county structures the budget, presents the budget. All departments are, department heads are nominated by he or she to the board for your confirmation as a board. So that's sort of the pros. The cons are you are, the legislators in these communities tell me that they feel a lot of their power was taken away by an elected county executive, and they're more dealing with approval of the budget. Appropriation is always under your jurisdiction and control. It's more for urban areas, mostly, with the exception of Montgomery County, who I have talked to, and he feels it really is working well in Montgomery County for grants, approaching the state of New York and trying to pull down grants. Do I think it's would be a good move in Otsego? I don't think it would be necessary to have an elected county executive, which leads me to a managerial form of government, manager versus administrator. That county manager typically has the power to hire and fire the department heads. That's the big difference between a manager and an administrator. An administrator, the department heads report to the board. And a manager form of government, like Schenectady, those department heads, with the exception of a county attorney, who reports to the board, in Schenectady, under the manager form of government, powers typically flow to hire and fire. So that manager in Schenectady operating like the Albany County executive, except not elected. It's appointed by you. Some feel that a manager is a professional, and you get what you get from a county executive who can come in and win a popularity contest. That's the other con people tell me. You never know who could win. Those positions presently, the district attorney, our judges, our sheriff, are elected at large presently. I don't know if you still have treasurer, and we have a treasurer here at large. But some boards feel that the ability to appoint that person means that they can set the credentials that they're looking for to come in and operate the day-to-day functions of the county, as opposed to you can't put credentials on a county executive. The public will judge them if they're properly suited to run the county.
Any questions?
Appreciate your time today, and I'm on the IGA committee. We had a conference call with you previously. And I mean, we've done a lot of discussion, and I think your suggestion about a mission visioning session is great. You know, we have a strategic plan, prioritization plan, and we really never, you know, articulated a clear mission vision for the county. But I'm of a very strong position that, you know, the time for talking about putting an administrator in place is done. We need to take action. And I guess I'd just ask your perspective. For example, our resolutions in front of us today, there's 28 resolutions here. 25 of them are related to hiring personnel, eliminating positions, or spending money, budget transfers, or approving purchases. And that, you know, those other 3 are questionable if they are outside the scope of operational. You know, in your opinion, you know, going back to what you said previously about the transition of an administrator or manager or executive allowing the board to free up their capacity, you know, to do policy development and work. If you looked at our monthly resolutions, this is what you would see every month. What would be the conclusion you would draw?
Well, I would rather go through that with you in a training seminar and have you come to those conclusions. Do I feel that you could be more productive? Yes, I do. I think you're a lot of smart people in this room who care deeply about your community and the future direction of this program, of this county, this region, this state, this asset that you have across the street over there, and the surrounding natural beauty, the water quality we have. I think that you could be more productive if you were spending less time on procedural nature of those types of resolutions. The job of the administrator is to triage those things with the department heads. When do you need legislative working with the county attorney, hand in glove? When do you need county board approval on certain things, and when you don't? And I think you could free yourself up more to look at economic development, tourism, agriculture, and priorities of the government and the county in this region to go to the state of New York or to go to Washington, D.C. I saw Kathy in Washington, D.C. I don't think we should be afraid of Washington, D.C. right now, in spite of what's going on nationally with the person in the Oval Office. I mean, we went down there because we should be getting federal resources for our state. What are our asks? While everybody else is fighting, there's a tremendous amount of federal resources available that we need to constantly be looking for. Water, sewer, infrastructure monies, and I think if we're spending all our time in operational issues, that it could be more productive. So, but I think you have to come to that conclusion as a body and generally be of like mind are what is the vision, what is the mission, and what are our core values to get to that, and it would form a pretty good blueprint for you to go forward and then have that next discussion of our present structure. Take a look at the committee structure, work with Carol on those committees. Carol and I work together all the time about how other boards are functioning with the types of committee structure. We have that information. We can come present that to you and show you the different committees and structures. The chairs don't change, the structure of the committees don't change. There'll always be the department heads, the committee chairs rather, to run the business of the board. So that would remain unchanged, but I think there's a lot of good that you could do out there. You have a lot of inherent powers, which when you first come into office, you feel so inspired to use, but then you get into office and it's like, we're so mandated with our spending by the state of New York, in most counties 100% of the property tax is for state mandates. So you're living on your sales tax. And that's been fluctuating. It's encouraging that it's coming back now, and we're hoping at 2 to 3% now, annual year-over-year growth, and now we're fighting for the internet sales tax to come in and rightfully take care of brick and mortar stores like you have on Main Street here, to bring some level of parity there. And there's lots of public policies coming up out of Albany. Legalization of marijuana for adult use is gonna happen. I'm pretty sure of it. What's that mean for us on public health, mental health, jail issues? These are state policy matters that they're debating there, but locally, what does that mean for us? So if we could spend our time thinking about those types of things. Sports betting is another thing happening that's going to be happening. How does sports betting affect Main Street in Cooperstown, New York? I don't know, but likely going to be happening. And these big areas of public policy that are coming out of Albany, really require your potential here, your intellect. You get be better prepared for what's coming down from Washington and from Albany. So I think a little retreat is a good way to take it to that next step. I think you have talked about it. I think the IGA committee really dove into this multiple times and really landed in a good spot for a presentation to the board, or as maybe a workshop of the board to take it to a next step. That step might be, let's have a administrator. That step might be, let's revamp our committee structure. That next step might be a manager role. That remains to be seen. Yes.
Hi, I'm also on the IGA committee, and thank you for coming out. One of the things that you spoke about with our telephone conference call that I think would be good for the full board to hear was a comparison of the costs of having an executive position versus an administrator or manager, in terms of where it's budget time coming up.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about you just can't create a county executive. You typically need staff. What is that salary of a county executive? 100,000, 85,000, probably something similar or parallel to a county administrator. You need administrative